That the differences between men's and women's shoes are infinitesimally small. And if the manufacturer actually tells you they really know what they did to make them different, it's not really true. We do a lot of shoe research for companies, and I'm not going to say shoes don't make a difference, because they definitely do. But to tell someone that we totally changed this on a women's shoe versus a men's shoe, there's not really much of a difference. Barefoot men and women, we know this from many studies we've actually done in our lab. Barefoot men and women do actually have some pretty different gait patterns, but once you put them in shoes, they actually just tend to pretty much not be there. Let's think about this. Remember back from geometry, if two objects are congruent, they're very tightly connected, right? So it's a very rigid lever to kind of move two objects. They don't really wiggle a whole lot. If two objects are less congruent, there's more motion between them available. They don't fit together very well. Does that make sense? So when your foot's pronated, okay, the foot actually tends to splay a little bit more, and those joints unlock, so it allows them to move. And again, it's a good thing. As the gentleman said, you need to have that happen for shock attenuation. It's a necessary aspect of gait, and all feet pronate. Some a little bit more than others, a little bit. Again, not a huge difference. If you look at midfoot mobility, but the foot does move and should move. Problem is, you don't want to push off on a big floppy sponge, right? You're going to push off on a rigid lever. So what the foot does, it supinates or increases congruency of the joints. So again, it just increases contact areas, so you have a rigid lever actually to push off from. Does that make sense? So that's how we need to think about pronation and supination. They're both good things, and if you do them at the right amounts at the right time, you're great.
An efficiency thing, because I think everybody's experienced when, let's say you run with someone you've never run before and they're slower, and but you run for a while. It almost becomes more difficult because it's just not natural.
Yep.
And you've changed your posture, potentially your gait. But you're thinking, man, I'm going, it should be.
Jill, you're trying to get a plane, I get it.
I can come up with more crap. But anyway, it just seems like there's a loss of efficiency that's almost more tiring.
Exactly. And so what happens is, so you're running a given pace, and your best friend calls up and says, "Oh, you run with me on Sunday?" You're like, "Damn it." Fine. Yeah. And so you're like running slower than you normally would, right, to keep up with your friend. Okay, so the idea is, yes, you're right. You change your contact time, you change your posture, so you're running different. Not gonna say you're running bad, but you're running different than you normally do. So that your normal form, everything else, is quite changed a whole lot. Okay, and if you think about it, you accelerate and decelerate all the time when you run. That's okay. But when you're being sort of forced into someone else's pace, it's unfamiliar to your body, so you change things. Exactly. This is initial contact, okay? And you've sort of been told in the runner's world, nobody talks about these things, when you contact the ground, all these awful things happen to your body, okay? And you need lots of heel support, and everything's awful if you don't have contact. Well, here's what our little person we generate at the lab, and so there's a little yellow line down here. Okay. Is this line big or small?
Small.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes!
So, this is a ground reaction force. Okay, this is the magnitude of the forces that you're pushing down on the ground pushes back with an equal and opposite force. Okay, so that's an initial contact. Here's the ground reaction force at mid-stance. We have an exponential increase. Okay, so mid-stance would be here, right? So the idea is the amount of force that your muscles are exerting, okay, and the amount of force on your joints, the amount of force on your bones and tendons, ligaments, everything, is not really that high. Okay, initial contact makes up less than 6% of the gait cycle. Okay, and it's basically you're not very high force, and there's not very much time spent there. So initial contact really isn't a big issue. Okay, mid-stance is a big issue. What do you look like from a stability standpoint? That's what we're sort of kind of melding our discussion into tonight. So this is where we get all our problems. I mean, you can say all these are due to, again, stability issues. Okay, how well can you control your body? That's the whole point about tonight. How does that impact your form, your ability to stabilize? Okay, so it's not just like, well, gee, I get this medial knee pain just because of one thing, and this is because of something else. I honestly got to tell you guys, a lot of the run injuries we see are from basically a few simple kind of biomechanical flaws. And if you fix the flaws, you fix the tissue stresses in a lot of locations, not just one. So stability. Stance phase must be stable. Stand up.
I can't, sorry.
Okay, I want everybody to stand on one leg for me.
I can't. Oh, there we go. I've done this before.
New sobriety test?
Yes. Okay, you can put your foot down. Okay, that's 30 seconds. Everybody go to your other foot. And 9 people fail that test. Now that's, 30 seconds eyes closed is normal balance. Not, I'm a runner, I'm a triathlete. It's normal. It's called like, hey, I like walk to the grocery store, okay? I'd say pretty much all of you look like this, okay, or like this, all right? And when I say close your eyes, basically we had wind in here without the fan on, okay? So again, when you run, you shouldn't have to compensate with trunk motion to make up for the fact that your foot and hip don't know what's going on. Does that make sense? Okay. Don't overstride. I say 90 is goal. We start to look at cadence, okay? Pay attention to your cadence. If you look at what happens when you slow your cadence down, you increase the metabolic cost of running when your cadence drops below a certain point. When cadence gets too high above this, it actually increases again. Again, it goes back to kind of inverted U idea. But the idea is you want to try and have a short ground contact time, not too short, this is a whole discussion, but minimize that ground contact time by having a faster turnover. That means you don't have to raise and lower your center of mass as much when you run, okay? Which this is why, so running uphill is harder than running on level ground, right? Running got that, okay? See, this is really easy. Really not that smart. Okay, but you start to think about cadence. Okay, so if you increase your cadence, you don't have to raise and lower as much. Okay, so you have more frequent ground contacts, means you're a little more efficient. Okay, less energy expended per distance covered. Okay. Not pushing hard? No. Okay. What happens to your body when I push down?
Lean back.
Yeah, you kind of buckle through here, right?
Right.
Okay. This is very common. Kyle's not like different. He's not like, look at that kid. He's screwed up. I'm glad I'm not here. So it's something very simple we can do. I'm going to have you all do this. But so I'm going to give Kyle a cue. I'm going to ask Kyle, put your hand in your belly button. One hand on your sternum. That's your bone in your chest. Okay, and what you do for me is shorten that distance a little bit. So you're going to come forward just a smidge at the waist. Okay, good. Now don't look at the floor. There's nobody down there. Okay. Keep your hand just like that for me. Okay, now I'm going to push down again here. Does it feel different? I'm going to push really hard. Do you move?
No.
Is that magic? Thank you. Okay. It's not magic. All we did was what? What did we do to him?
Find a neutral stance.
What does that do to your body?
Stabilizes it.
Stabilize your spine, just to take the compressive force.
Exactly.
Apply the
Exactly.
shoulders.
You line the spine. So you're stacking the vertebrae a little more effectively, okay? And that's where your spine wants to be. And this is single leg stance. You guys should be doing this every day, lots of times throughout the day, and this should feel good. Because guess what? Later tomorrow morning and tomorrow night, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then this. You're going to keep going. Okay. That needs to feel somewhat normal. Okay, and the goal is to make this feel like home, make it feel stable. When you get better at it, guess what you do? Close your eyes. Okay, try and just hold it. You'll wiggle a little bit more, fine, but you got to stabilize. Okay, do some rotations. Okay, back and forth. And a little game to play is sort of, don't get on the wall, but get near the wall. Rotate around, sort of almost touch. Rotate around, sort of almost touch. Right, trying to think about how can I control and stabilize. You're working your foot and ankle, you're working your hip. Okay, try them on a pillow, try them on your bed. Change the surface up a little bit. Okay, you'll get that feedback, the whole kind of idea behind balance control, right? Your foot gives you information, you want to use that information to coordinate with your spinal mechanics. That's going to give you stability. This is the seat pan at the bottom. If the seat pan on your chair adjusts, all you're going to do is actually drop it a little bit, like this, okay? So that does, it rolls your pelvis forward a little bit, okay? Just encourages you to have a little bit more upright posture, okay?
So you want to sit more on the front of your sit bones as opposed to the...
Exactly,
Okay.
so I should get exactly that, roll back, so
Okay.
let yourself slump. That's rolling back at her pelvis, that makes sense? And we actually just, if we bring her forward like this, she can do that right now, but if we tip this forward a little bit, it sort of cues you a little bit, okay, to do that. If you're at a chair which doesn't have one of those little rolls, what you can do is just take, scoot forward in the chair a little bit, and take one foot and actually tuck it under you a little bit. Okay, that does the same thing. If you sort of like drop one leg down, it sort of again encourages you to roll forward the pelvis a little bit. That's the way it can sort of kind of cue you again. The third thing you can do is if your chair doesn't tilt again, take a little towel roll, stick it right under your sit bones, and again, it just gives you a little bit of a rotation that way.
Questions? All right, well, Jay, thanks so much.
Yeah.